Welcome, everyone. Good evening. My name's Andrew. I'm the Associate Publisher at Icon Books. Thank you so much for coming along to the launch of Rachael Smith's dazzling, funny, sad, insightful, beautiful book, Quarantine Comix, which Icon are incredibly proud to be publishing today. Amongst Rachael's many, many fans is comedian Chris Addison. And he said that her book is funny and sad and relatable and wise. And that her work is like the hug from a friend you didn't know you needed. We're not going to argue with that tonight, and we hope that we can extend a little bit of virtual hugging to everyone who's here this evening. I'm going to be handing over to Ellen Conlon shortly, who is Rachael's editor at Icon, but I've just a few little housekeeping bits and pieces first, if that's okay with you all. So firstly, we are delighted to be running this launch in collaboration with the best comic book shop out there, Gosh Comics. Thank you very much to Andrew at Gosh, if he's in the meeting already, for all your help and dedication and support to Rachael's book. If for some bizarre reason you've not bought Rachael's book yet, or even perhaps if you have, but you need a few more as presents for all your friends, and let's not forget that Christmas is coming, we would love you to do so tonight with Gosh. And we have a link there, which I've just shared in the chat again, and I'll do so a few more times tonight. Gosh have a few signed copies left, so if you're super quick, you might even get yourself one with the exclusive book plates that we've put together. As you can see from our graphic there, Ellen and Rachael are going to be talking until about ~7, and then after that we have about a quarter of an hour for your questions. Please feel free to add questions to the chat as we go along, and then when we get to that stage, Ellen can pick out some for Rachael to answer in that last 15 minutes. If you could please keep your microphone on mute for the event, that would be much appreciated. But just before the end, I'll unmute you all so Rachael can hear all your cheers and claps, which I'm sure you'll be very happy to give her. We are recording the event tonight, and we'll post the recording on our social media in the coming days, so you can relive all the fun and share the event with people not able to make it tonight in the next few days, as I say. So thanks very much again for coming. Thank you very much for your support. So if Ellen and Rachael would now like to unmute themselves, I will hand you over to them. Thanks very much.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Andrew. Just checking you can all hear me.
Put on some clothes, shake up your bed.
There we go. So yes,
Rowie's here, amazingly.
Sorry about that.
Special occasion. So thank you for joining us this evening to celebrate the publication of Quarantine Comix, a memoir of life in lockdown by the wonderful Rachael Smith. I presume you are all cheering for her now, but you're all on mute, so we'll have to save that for afterwards. Oh, lovely. Thank you. We'll get the noise at the end. I won't go on for long, as I know that the reason you're all here is to hear from the author herself, and we have some questions lined up for her to answer. But I did just wanted to say a few words to let you know how this book came into being and how proud I am of it and of Rachael. So I first heard from Rachael and her agent in mid-January this year. And for any of you that are familiar with the book publishing process, the fact that we are here in mid-May and we are all looking at beautiful physical finished copies of the book in front of us is really no mean feat. It's actually quite common for books to have well over a year from inception to publication, but the fact that we've been able to do this is really a testament to how great Rachael has been to work with. So the proposal came in January, and I think both I and my team knew straight away that this was a book that we wanted to publish. I started reading the document that came in, and I was flicking through each page, and I literally just got lost in it. I couldn't stop. I found each page so identifiable, so relatable. They really reinforced and validated a lot of the experiences that I had over the past 10 months of lockdown. And they were also funny and provoking all of those responses in a reader so quickly is again no mean feat at all, and really not something that happens every day. So I just knew it was something that I wanted to be a part of, and something that I wanted to help reach as large an audience as possible. Rachael has been an absolute joy to work with. From those initial weeks when we were putting the finishing touches to the book package, to the past months when she's been working really hard with my marketing and sales colleagues, nothing has been too much for her to do, and she has worked incredibly quickly on so many requests. And this has led to the creation of some really wonderful material to support the book, which I'm sure you've all seen in some form. The book itself is, I'm sure those of you who have seen it will agree, a really beautiful physical thing. Oh, lovely to see some there in the background. I think it's going to be a really great reminder to us all in the years to come of what we've all lived through. I'm sure, well, you all do have your copies with you. As Andrew has already said, if you would like to buy another maybe, then Gosh have done an absolute brilliant job as our partner in this event. So thank you very much, Gosh, for your support. It's been wonderful to be able to work together. My final thank you and shout out is to all of you here this evening with us. It's really been fantastic to see the support Rachael has from her followers and fans. And without realising it, you've really helped to give her book a really great start in publication. So thank you all very much for that. If there's any questions you have for Rachael or any comments on the book, as Andrew said, please do write them in the chat and I'll do my best to get round to them. And so before we move on to the interview, I would like to wholeheartedly congratulate Rachael on the publication of Quarantine Comix. And those that have them to hand, please do raise a glass to Rachael. I have empty hands, sadly, but to Rachael and to Quarantine Comix. So it feels weird to have no response to that, I'm not going to lie, but we'll carry on. On to the questions. So some of you submitted questions with your RSVPs to this event, so thank you very much for that. And I will intersperse those with some questions of my own. But first up then, Rachael, could you tell us a bit about how your daily comics came into being? At what point in 2020 or lockdown did you start them and why?
Oh, so we're going straight to questions.
Oh, is there
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. Just a tiny bit of housekeeping. Maybe it's because people are chatting in the chat anyway. Maybe it's worth them putting like question before they write their question. Yeah. Is that okay? Just so you can see them easier, because I'll just lose them.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I'll take control.
Yeah, cool. Sorry. Yeah. When did I start them? I started them March 21st. So like 2 days before the UK went into lockdown. Also the day before my birthday, which is why I remember it so well. Yeah, what was the rest of the question? Was that it?
How did they come into being? Why did you start them? What prompted you?
Okay, this is gonna be weird because I can literally see her on the screen, but it was because of my friend Heather came over because I was really sad because my boyfriend Rob wasn't gonna be able to come over for my birthday. Just because we felt like it was a little bit unsafe with all the things flying around, and in hindsight it was definitely the right decision for him not to come over. She came over and I was just feeling really useless, and I was kind of a little bit depressed with how the world seemed to be going, and Heather reminded me that if I was good at anything, I was good at making comics that made people feel less alone. So why don't I try and make a comic every day? At the time, we thought it was going to be like 2 weeks. She was like, why don't you make a comic in these 2 weeks? We're going to be in lockdown. And I was like, oh, it's a really good idea. That will at least give me something to get up for and give me something to do during the day. And yeah, and then obviously it wasn't 2 weeks, but I found it very cathartic to make these comics. So like a mad woman, I just carried on doing that.
Not mad at all. But then was there any point obviously it was far longer than 2 weeks, but was there any point that you felt like giving up, that you didn't want to keep going? And if so, what stopped you giving up? What kept you going?
I think I would have stopped if not for the overwhelming support I got from my social media followers, and just the love I got through them. You know, I didn't start this process thinking it would be a book or even anything that I could make money off. Like, it was just kind of to get my feelings out on the page, to get them somewhere, so they weren't just in my head. And yeah, I probably would have stopped after 2 weeks and gone, okay, that was a good exercise. Let's try and find some work and try and make some money. But yeah, just people were giving me these messages saying that they were helping them and that they were waiting for them every day, and they were making them, like Heather said, they were making them feel less alone, and they were doing just the job they were meant to be doing, and that was just it was just amazing. So yeah, even if the comic wasn't very optimistic, I at least did one, and I think doing that has made the book that we now have a bit more authentic, because there were days when I wasn't very happy, there were days when I was struggling, there were days when I just spent the day on the floor with my cat on top of me, and that's fine. I still got through it, and yeah, I don't know if you can see, but if you've got the sort of grid thing up, Rob and Rufus are just there. Rufus is a black cat, so he's just like a void, so you're probably just seeing a black circle on the screen now, but there's the star, there's the real star, Rufus.
There's some other names on this screen as well, so we might need to have a little spotlight at the end.
Okay, that would be good.
Following on from sort of what you were just saying there, your drawings are so very honest in many places, and obviously in your struggles with your mental health and how you dealt with that, and I think a lot of us did struggle in different ways over the past year. But did you ever feel wary or concerned about sharing that much with your followers?
So this has been something I've got quite good at over the years, because I've always done well, always, I didn't do it when I was like 1, but like when I got into comics, I kind of cut my teeth on autobio comics or diary comics, so comics about what you've done that day. I find really interesting, and you know, very very much inspired by Kate Beaton or James Kachalka or Lucy Ebrey and people like that. And it is, and Emmy Lennox was another big one, and it is a big thing, putting so much of yourself onto the page. I can't remember who I was talking about. I got interviewed a few months ago, and I can't even remember who it was now. But it was Dan Berry, who does Make It Then Tell Everybody. And I know that there are barriers, there are lines there. I just don't know where they are. It's kind of a case by case basis, and I know that's a really rubbish, vague answer, but yeah, there are things that I won't talk about in the comics. But yeah, and it's strange because of the pandemic. I get reminded about how much I've given of myself to people through conventions, because they'll come up to me at my table and say, "Oh, hey, so how's therapy going? How's that weird thing that happened to you the other day? Is that still playing on your mind?" And I'll just be like, "God, I don't even know your name, and you know so much about me," and that's really strange. But so maybe I'll get an outpouring of that at the next convention I go to. But yeah, I'm sorry, that's very vague. There are lines drawn in the sand, but I don't know where they are until I go to draw the comic and I go like, oh no, this is too much. But yeah.
So the next question is one.
Hello?
Oh, I'm not sure who that was. But the next one is one that came through on the RSVPs, and started with a statement: your quarantine comics have really helped me to get through parts of lockdown, which I think is a really general sentiment. I think you know that, Rachel, that's what kept you going. But this is from JB, and they ask, at what point in the process of making the daily comics did you think, hey, this could be a book? And did you think they would go on for so long?
Golly, so I guess it must have been before January. Time is really weird in the pandemic. I'm so sorry. I think, yeah, it was probably about the time when all my Twitter followers started bullying me, or not bullying me, but they started all saying like, this should be a book, these should be in a book. Are these going to be in a book? When are you going to put these in a book? Like, it was very similar tweets.
So that you
which is very, very lovely that they wanted that that content. But so that spurred me on to ask my agent, James. He is here somewhere. I don't know where he is. But yeah, I was like, should these be a book? A lot of people are saying they should be a book. And he was like, yeah, I think they should be a book too. And so James found you. I can't remember at what point that was though. It must have been about maybe 30 or 40 comics in. When I started, because people kept waiting for the 10th one, because I'd do a big colour one and they would get excited about that, which is very sweet. But yeah, I guess when it got that sort of overwhelming support from social media, I started to realise this was a bit bigger than just putting it on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe it should go out to more people, and that would be nice if it's helping people on my Twitter list. Maybe it would help people that I don't know. So yeah.
Definitely a good idea. So then moving on from that, how did you then collate this collection? Sadly, there have been far more days of lockdown than there are pages in this book. So how did you pick what went in and what didn't?
So I thought the first 200 would make a good book, and that's what I offered to you, and that's what you very kindly accepted. I did think about taking some out, because there are some that are quite frantically drawn. They're not the best drawings, but then I thought, well, if I start editing it like that, it's less authentic, and having those frantically drawn ones where I was feeling just really tired or just really stressed out and just like, oh God, I've got to do a comic. Like I think that helps the book be more real. And, you know, some of them aren't the best drawings, but I think what they communicate is more important. And there's always the big posh color pages to prove to people that I can draw. So it's not the end of the world that there's like a bad hand in there or something. But yeah, I thought the first 200 was quite a nice kind of arc story-wise. I did keep going for a bit. I think I did maybe 80 or 85 more after that, which I put on my Twitter and stuff. And then I just had to stop because I got busy with other work, which is good. I have written like a whole bunch. I've written like maybe another 100, but just not got around to drawing them. And now I'm a bit like, well, they're kind of, I don't know, maybe a bit past the time to draw them now. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if anyone wants to remember lockdown in like a year's time. Maybe I'll draw them and we'll put them in another book. But yeah, so I did carry on, but I thought the first 200 were pretty indicative of how that time kind of felt. And I don't know if we've said much about this, but the book has a prologue and an epilogue, which I didn't put on Twitter or anything. And the epilogue does kind of talk about how the book finishes while we were still coming out of lockdown, which we still are kind of even now. And it does kind of talk about that a little bit. But yeah, it was a nice story arc and a nice sort of coming to the start of normality is how it ends in the book. So sorry, spoilers. It's like our lives, so I'm not really spoiling anything. But yeah, I felt that the first 200 made a good book.
Well, you've basically answered my next question, which is from Stacey, but because it was from someone else, I'm just going to acknowledge that it was asked, and she said the book must have gone to publication before the end of lockdown. So how did you decide when to draw the line and stop adding pages to the book? But I do think you have just answered that. So unless there's anything you want to add.
I sort of didn't stop. I carried on. But yeah, just I carried on, but just on my social media and stuff. Yeah, I wasn't like, Ellen, I've got another page, put it in the book. And I was like, we've just gone to print, Rachel. You do not understand publishing.
I mean, we worked quickly, but we couldn't work much.
Going around Waterstones, like stapling extra pages onto it.
Well, the next question might need some unraveling, but I promised I would ask them all. So when it came to writing this comic in the first place, was it something you felt about before lockdown? From Tom Carter. Do you have a crystal ball?
No, I didn't know lockdown was going to happen, Tom. I'm sorry. If I'd have known, I probably would have got my boyfriend to come and see me a lot earlier. But no, I didn't think I'd be making comics about lockdown. Maybe the question means, like, I've always done autobio comics, so maybe it's more about that. And I've always thought I would do more diary comics. So yes. Let's go with yes for that one.
Do you have a favourite illustration or page within the book? And if so, why?
So I have two. I'm going to cheat and say I've got two. One of them's because I think it is the best drawing in the book, which is the one where I'm looking out over the hills and looking like into the villages down below. I've never drawn, at the time, I have sort of dabbled now in drawing ambitious things like that, but at the time I'd never drawn something that was so like with the camera pulled out so far. So I was really pleased with how that came out. It's the one where I'm like sat on the little tuffock and I've got that one, Nigel, thank you, with the two, with Barky and Friendly on either side of me, and we're just looking out into the beautiful Hebden countryside. I just think that's just a really good drawing, and I was really pleased with how that came out. And I did prints of that one, and they did really well. And my other favorite is, and it's not very well drawn, but it's one of the very frantic black and white ones, and it's the comic where I first get to hug Rob after, again, spoilies. I mean, you all know I live with him now, so it's fine. But yeah, and that was just such a nice one to draw for me, and I did draw it really fast because I was excited to draw it and tell everyone that we'd finally got together. And yeah, that was my other favorite so I guess the color one for technical reasons, the second one for very personal reasons.
Very good answers. And it is a hard decision to make, so my questions now become a tiny bit more practical to do with the drawings, but my next one is, at what point in each day did you do the drawings, considering that they are meant to be representative of your day, and how long did each drawing take?
Okay, I wish I was the kind of person that was like, okay, I'll do my quarantine comic at 10 from yesterday and then I'll get on with, like, I did them with, some days I would do 4 in a day and then I wouldn't do them for a few days. Like, I'd go a bit bonkers and just do loads. So yeah, I didn't really have a time in the day where I'd do them. They also wouldn't necessarily be about that day. Sometimes I'd sort of write them in my head when I was doing something else a few days before, and I wouldn't get around to it until a couple of days later. But yeah, it was really higgledy-piggledy how I wrote them. I wish I was the kind of person who could schedule herself very, very well and very strictly. But yeah, just so yeah, I never, as far as like choosing which one to do, I wrote them all. I had like a big list in my phone of like little snippets of what I wanted to talk about, and if it came to a day when I didn't know what to do about, I would just look at that and do one of those. But yeah, it really wasn't structured at all. It was just mainly what was making me angry that day, or what upset me, or what I was happy about. Whichever emotion was bubbling up the most that day would usually get there. And
how quick was it to create?
Oh, so the black and white, like, they were usually 4 panels. The black and white comics usually about an hour once I start drawing. But like I say, I usually wrote them before. Like, I wrote a lot like if I was going on a walk with Heather or Ian or Rachel, who are all in the book, I'd usually sort of think about things in my head and write them, and then sometimes if we even stopped for a drink on the way, I'd sort of type things out on my phone and stuff like that. So I sort of wrote them while I was doing other things, and then when it came to draw them, yeah, usually about an hour.
Well, my next question is quite connected, but was it always easy to think of what each drawing was going to be, and did you often have multiple options for each day?
Yeah, I always had more written than I had time to draw. But yeah, like I say, it was just the emotion that I was feeling that day. Usually I'd be like, oh, I should do this one. Oh, but I'm really feeling like this. And I was like, well, that kind of answers that, doesn't it, Rachel? Let's do the one that you're you're feeling strongly about.
Brilliant. So the next question is from Cherish York. And they have asked, what is your favourite art tool to draw with?
Oh, I should have got them out. Do I have some here? Oh, I've got like a... So I use blue Colorays pencils. This one's very well used to do the penciling of the comics. And then I should have prepared more, but I tidied up for this interview, and then yeah. I use like a brush pen, a Kuretake black brush pen to go over the pencils. Then I scan that in, and I put it into Photoshop, and there's a way you can just turn off the blue, so I don't have to worry about rubbing out all the pencil. And then the black and white ones, it was pretty easy from there. I just fiddled with it on Photoshop until it looked nice, and then posted it. The color ones I color on Photoshop as well. So it's always a mixture of physical and digital.
And there was a second question from Cherish. They asked, what advice can you give to artists who are trying to continue with their career through normal life and the issues that throws up?
Oh, well, I've made my career on leaning into those issues and making content out of them. So just lean into those issues, Cherish. Just yeah, just make comics about how you're struggling with them. Someone else is probably struggling as well and will relate.
Brilliant answer.
Thanks.
And then the last one that I actually have written down, so if everyone could get typing their questions while we ask this one, is from Beck Fisher, and might need some thinking on this one, Rachel. Sum up your ultimate pipe dream project in 5 words. Not to throw you in at the deep end.
Continue telling my own stories. I think.
Well done there.
I have a little story, actually. I don't know if we have time for a story. It's quite a short story. I don't know if he's here. Kieron Gillen. I met him for the first time. Gosh, it's about it must be like 6 or 7 years ago now. It's scary long ago. And I was just a fledgling comic artist, sort of not really knowing what she was doing. I'd put out a couple of mini comics at that point, but I hadn't really found my feet with writing or drawing. I was just practicing still, getting to know the craft. And I had been to a Comic-Con, and I ended up at like an after party with Kieron there. And I think he kind of, because he's very kind, he kind of noticed I was a bit on my own and not really knowing who to talk to. And he came over and I was like, oh, what do you do? Are you doing comics as well? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm just starting though. And then Kieron isn't great at the small talk. And I think he sensed that I didn't really know what path I was going to take. And he just said, well, what do you want to be remembered for? And I said, without even thinking, I said, I want to be remembered for telling my own stories about characters that I've made up. And he was like, great. And that kind of told me, obviously I've done a lot of comics about myself, so I'm not, well, I guess I have made myself up, kind of. I've made myself who I am. But yeah, I want to tell stories, and I want to I want to make up characters that people love, and so I would like to do that, more of that, please. Is my yeah.
So I'm now just looking through all of the comments, and there are some delightful comments. So I hope you get a chance to read them, Rachel, because they are really lovely. But I'm just trying to find some of the questions within here. So from John Neal, my 10-year-old daughter loves drawing and writing comics, particularly anime and manga at the moment. What tips do you have, or what's the best piece of advice you've got for when you're starting out?
If this is the John Neal I'm thinking of, I think I've met your daughter and she is a delight. I would recommend a lot of life drawing. She doesn't necessarily have to go to, you know, places where there's naked people. Just life drawing, like, you know, still lives, or drawing like your pet or things in the house is really, really interesting. Even things you think look really boring is actually really really interesting to draw. Also just communicating through comics as well, like maybe ask her to make a comic about her day, like how it started and how it ended. Even just those 2 panels, how it started, how it ended, is a really nice exercise. Or another really good one is how it looked and how it felt. So like something that happened, just how it looked. Like, I don't know, maybe going for a walk looked like just going for a walk through the woods and it was nice. Maybe how it felt was like, oh, this huge path and it was so long and it was like a desert and she could put some cactuses in. I don't know, like how that kind of thing, like really exaggerate things. Those are some nice prompts for making comics. But yeah, life drawing was a bit of a lifesaver for me when I was learning to draw. So that's a good basis.
Thanks. The next question is from Icon's very own Andrew. And he asks, what other lockdown stories have you enjoyed or been inspired by?
Oh golly, this is really hard because there's so many, but they've all been on Instagram and I have no idea what their handles are. I just read them. Yeah, can I come back to you on that and I'll see if I can find them? Oh no.
It doesn't have to be cartoon, comic, it could be another media form, but we can move on.
Okay.
Jenna Beth says Flimsy is an amazing character, who I don't think features in Quarantine Comics, but will there be more of the most relatable cat in the world?
Oh golly, I'm not sure. So Flimsy's Musings came out not too long ago. Yeah, I think I will always do something with Flimsy. She was the first character I ever came up with when I was quite young. For anyone who doesn't know, she's just a little blue cat who likes to drink wine. She's basically me as a cat. And she makes lots of mistakes, but she tries to do her best. And so I make these comics. She's basically my only sort of kid-friendly content. The only comics I do that don't have swearing in them are Flimsy comics. So yeah, they're the comics I tend to just shove into kids' hands at conventions. I'm like, no, don't read that. Read this one. Read this one. Look at this nice cat. But yeah, she's. I do want to do more Flimsy. I will, just maybe not for a while. I'm a bit booked up for a while with other projects, but yeah, always Flimsy.
Just a question from me again, bouncing off that. I've seen from your social media that you've been doing some visits to schools recently, I think. Mm-hmm. What are you doing there, and are you trying to inspire the next generation of comic writers?
Yeah, this was a thing that was organized by the Lakes Comics Arts Festival, and yeah, I've been going into a school for 6 sessions, and I did some diary comics with them, so that was really nice. And again, some of the things I just said to John Neal, I did with them, so I made them do some made them. I asked them nicely to do some diary comics, and I got them to draw themselves as animals and just to sort of communicate who they are through comics. And that was really nice. I was very, very nervous because I'm not a teacher at all, not trained at all in any of that. I'm also kind of scared of children. But like they really warmed to me, which was really sweet, and it was actually kind of hard to say goodbye to them. One of them drew me a picture of me and her, and I nearly cried, which is not professional at all. But yeah, it was really nice. But yeah, I hope I've inspired some of them to do comics. I asked them at the end, I was like, are any of you going to carry on doing comics? And like, it was like, they all sort of went, yeah, like they were at assembly, and I was like, no, you don't mean that. But I'm hoping a couple of them meant it.
I'm sure they did. We've had some lovely comments about Flimsy. Hazel saying that was how she first heard of your work, seeing a poster for the blue kitty knickers at a local coffee shop.
Oh God, yeah, that's a deep dive, Hazel. Well done for that.
So Leonard asks, have you kept any of the strips? Decided that nope, not selling that one. That one's for me.
Yeah, I kept 2 of them. I kept so I did one of the colour ones was of me sort of leaning over a gate and holding my own hand, and I think the thing it said I hold my own hand and I imagine that it's yours, something like that. You'd think I'd remember, but yeah. Oh yes, Leonard, you have it open there. Thank you. Yeah, I kept that one. I kept the original of that one. And I also kept, there's one where I'm hugging Rob, and we have some, I forget the band now. It's some lyrics, and it just says "Home is wherever I'm with you," and I kept that one. Oh, Rob has it there. There we go. And I said I'm going to keep that one as well, because both of those were obviously about Rob and about how I was missing him, and then how I was pleased to be able to hug him again. And I was like, yeah, when I move in with you, we're gonna frame them, and haven't got around to it yet, but totally am gonna do that. But yeah, those were the 2 that I kept.
So aside from your illustration work, are there any other activities or hobbies that stand out to you as really having helped you through this past year?
Oh,
good question.
I mean, I think they're all here. I've recently started playing D&D, which has been amazing, with Sophie as DM, and I think George is here as well, and Beck maybe, yeah, somewhere. But yeah, that's been really amazing. Really nice to just leave Rachael Smith at the door and just be someone else for a while. It's quite nice. I also I mean, I started learning ukulele, but it was fun, but it's not really gone anywhere. I would like to pick that up again. And yeah, me and Rob have been doing a little bit of singing, a little bit of music. It's been nice. And yeah, when I don't know if Ian's here. Me and Ian played a lot of board games when we were together through lockdown. So yeah, those things all kept me going when I wasn't furiously drawing about my emotions.
Shelley asks, related to that, is there any music in particular that got you through lockdown?
Oh, I listened to a lot of Sleater Kinney, very sort of angry women, was helpful. I can't think of any other, maybe some Frightened Rabbit as well, although they've kind of peppered my whole life, it feels. And yeah, I used to work at a little cafe in Hebden called Mooch. I used to work a couple of days a week there before, when lockdown allowed. And I always used to put Bowie on there. I think we had Bowie on earlier on while we were all waiting. Bowie and Nick Drake were my 2 go-tos when I worked there. So yeah, and I think because I played them a lot while I was there, they'll always remind me of lockdown. So maybe that's why I chose Barry for the for the waiting room music.
So JR has said there were some small animations made of your work which you posted online, which was part of our marketing for this book. But they have asked, has anyone approached you to do an animated version of your strips? And then Leonard has says that would be amazing, and he's been saving the gifts when they've been showing up.
That's very sweet. No one's approached about Quarantine Comics. I was selected to pitch, I don't know if anyone knows, my book Stand in Your Power. I am pitching that at Annecy Comics Festival, Annecy Animation Festival. I'm just not used to going to festivals that aren't about comics. Annecy Animation Festival, people are interested in hearing how that might be an animated series. So I'm going to be pitching that. So some of my autobio strips might be animated, but yeah, no one's pounced on Quarantine Comics yet.
Maybe that's a missed opportunity from our part.
Well, maybe if Stand in Your Power gets like a Netflix series.
Definitely. John Neal has asked, is there any update on Isabella and Brodwin?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that today. I really do want to do that book. I will be working on that later in the year. It has a new home. I don't know how much John has seen about that. It has a new home with my old editor Lizzie Kay now is still my editor. Cast Iron Books it has a home with now, and they're very excited about it. So that will be coming out it will be coming out spring next year. So yeah, don't even worry about it. If you bought it on the Unbound link, you'll still be getting it. We'll still honor that. So yeah, don't worry about it if you pre-ordered it on a different thing. Yeah.
Just a really lovely question has come through. If all you are doing right now is surviving, that is fine, is a panel that I return to. This is from Mark Nelson. Do you have any sense of how many people you have helped get through this?
Oh, that's I mean, I think a little bit, because I get a lot of love on Twitter and stuff. But I mean, now that the book's out there, I can't keep track of it anymore. It's out of my hands. Like, people could go into a normal bookshop and get it, and that's exciting to me. Like, people could be reading it right now, and I don't know who they are, and I don't know. I do realize it's helped a lot of people, and I think that's amazing. You know, from what started as just something that I thought would help me to get my feelings out on paper, has ended up helping a lot of people. Yeah, it's really, really wonderful and quite humbling. But yeah.
That's wonderful. Cherish has asked, what advice would you tell your younger self about the future?
I'd say don't worry so much, but I still worry a lot about everything. So that's obviously just part of who I am. It depends how young I am, I guess. Don't worry about the teachers that tell you not to draw cartoons. Ignore your art teacher who told you that cartoons were a waste of time, because you're making a career out of it now.
That's a bit awkward, yeah. They're not on this call.
Yeah.
And Stebbin, who I recognise from the book, not face to face, but has asked, how did you get so good at drawing animals? They are so expressive.
Oh, I mean, animals were what I drew when I could hold a pencil. I wasn't really into drawing like people when I was little. It was all like dogs and cats and fish and dolphins and unicorns and yeah, so I just sort of copied pictures a lot from like nature books and stuff like that. And yeah, and I would just fill pages and pages and pages. Like I'd do, my mum was like, here's I was like, what should I draw? And mum was like, I don't know, dolphins. And I'd just fill a page of dolphins, like doing different things, like drinking tea. I don't know how that works when you're a dolphin under the sea, but like drinking tea or like kissing or climbing a tree or like really weird things. I would just draw them over and over and over again. But yeah, it helped that I was very into animals when I was a kid. Like I wasn't allowed a pet until I was like 9. So before that, I just had to draw them. I should draw all the animals that I wanted, which was a lot and very unrealistic. You know, I really wanted to fill I remember I was thinking about this the other day actually, because I was thinking about my old family home. I used to dream about filling the front room with water and having my own killer whale. That was what I wanted, like more than anything. So I drew a lot of killer whales. I thought they were the best. Yeah, I'm good at drawing animals because I was an unhinged child who just thought she should have all the animals forever. And drew them instead of owning them. In hindsight, it would have been really not very nice for the killer whale to live in my front room filled with water. But luckily I wasn't allowed to do that.
There have been some lovely comments in here, and I haven't been able to read them all, unfortunately. But one of the ones that has just come up, I think, is worth sharing because it's just great. Sarah said, one of the comics explained how I felt about one aspect of lockdown better than I could. So I bought it and showed it to my colleagues so that they'd understand better. And I think that is just a wonderful thing to have been able to create, Rachel. So
that's really nice. I was Sarah's voice for her. Yeah. In drawing form. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you, Sarah.
Roisin has asked, I know there are drawings we won't ever see, but do you ever draw comics just for yourself, for your eyes only? I do that with doodles for sure, because why not?
I definitely doodle just for myself. But yeah, I don't know if I'd ever just make a comic just for the heck of it. Yeah, I mainly I doodle. Yeah, I make a lot of drawings that don't see the light of day, whether that's like for a work thing and I just need to get used to drawing a character, or whether it's just I'm on the phone to my mum. I can say that because I know my mum's not here. Or yeah, it just, yeah, I draw a lot, but not all of it sees the light of day. But yeah, I don't think I'd sit and do a comic and be like, yeah, this is for me. I'd probably put it online somewhere.
Jenna Beth has asked, do you have or would you ever have a TikTok or YouTube channel where you talk about art and your processes?
Oh, Jenna Beth, I can barely do Zoom. I'm an old woman. I don't think I belong on TikTok really. What would I even put on TikTok? I don't know. I think I'm good with the social media I have. If I don't know, James, if you shout at me that I should have a TikTok, I'll maybe look into it. But until then, I think I'm all right. I just do it wrong.
So that is all the questions that I can see. I'm very sorry if you have asked one and I've missed it. If anyone quickly wants to rush in and ask another, then please do now. But if not, I will hand you back over to Andrew.
Thank you so much, Ellen and Rachel. It's been really, really lovely to hear you chat about the book. I wanted to say one more time, thank you so much to Gosh Comics as well. And I will, just in case you've not missed it, the numerous times I've posted it, there we go, post the link again, so you can all buy your 6 copies of the book, which you're required to do. Did I mention that at the start? I can't remember or not. I will in a minute unmute you all, and so we can all have a clap and a cheer, I think, for Rachael, because she most definitely deserves it all. So everyone is very welcome to unmute themselves now, if you like. And there we go. So thank you very much, Rachael.
Bravo, Rachael, bravo.
Well done for real life.
Amazing.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank
Well
you
done,
very
Robert
much.
Rufus.
Definitely, thank you.
Very much looking forward to going to the sewers soon.
Me too, Heather, me too.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, that has been lovely. And I hope this has been an adequate celebration for you, Rachel. I'm so sorry we haven't been able to do this face to face, but I hope to see you face to face one day soon.
Soon.
You said earlier that you'd be looking forward to getting back to Comic-Cons again, to see people face to face. When do you have one kind of like ideas of ones lined up? Are you going to Thought Bubble, please?
I'm going to Thought Bubble. Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm doing the Lakes as well, which I think is before Thought Bubble.
Yeah.
I was going to look behind me there where I usually have my wall chart, but I've put all these balloons and bunting.
I think it's
so
the week
not
before.
there.
I think it's the week before. It's back to back.
Yeah. So those are the two main ones I've got booked in. I think I've got a few little ones as well, but I think Lakes is the first. So yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry, Rachael. Sorry, I think you were going to.
I was just going to say, fingers crossed, it goes ahead. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I will put on a little bit of music to play us out. I dare say I may share the link to Gosh once again. But thank you so much for coming along this evening. It's been really, really lovely to celebrate the publication of Rachel's book.
I can't believe how many people we came. It's so nice. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
And a hand reaching down.
This meant a great material.
All the nightmares came today.
Thank you.